Okay, so as you know, I'm asking people about stories of resilience in their family and how that theme and those lessons are passed down through those stories. So is there any stories you'd like to share?
My mom grew up in Canada, after finishing up high school, and then came to the US to finish off her bachelor's, and takes a little bit of adjusting coming to the US and being so far away from home. My mom was, she finished off studying at Wharton and really wanted to go into all sorts of aid foundations and different things that help globally and in a sustainable way. So a big goal that she had was to work at the World Bank, and she took a lot of little steps along the way, working at the World Health Organization and working as a I think she worked as a receptionist at the atomic agency, the nuclear energy agency during Chernobyl. She's done a lot of great work to finally get to her position where she's at, where she's pretty high up at the World Bank, and I just remember her finally getting that job, coming back to the US to do all of that, and I just remember being kind of so proud to see how she's progressed and to see the impact that she has on people and on these projects that can have a huge impact on all these people that she might not ever get to meet. Anyway, all that, of course, makes me incredibly proud of my mom, but also just has been incredibly important in me realizing that, I have to work for what I want to do, but also that I can do that. And even, within my family, my mom is the one that mostly, I guess, is the breadwinner, quote unquote. But, seeing that I can be both a valid parent as a breadwinner and as someone that might not be otherwise. So that's been, I think, really central in my upbringing and in the way that I view the world as well.
So my grandfather has kind of a bit of a dramatic story. Like I said, he grew up in the aftermath of the Spanish Civil War. I think he was born the year before it ended, so I think it was 38, 39. And the year after he was born, his father died. So he had 6 or 7 siblings, and his mother was pregnant with her last kid when his dad died. But when he passed away, it basically left my my great grandmother a single mom with 6 or 7 kids. And because of my great grandfather's political beliefs, they weren't super popular. Because of that, she ended up kind of splitting the family, a bunch of different relatives. So they went with different aunts, different uncles. The oldest one joined the military, and she went with one of the girls to a nunnery, and they hid away in a nunnery. And my grandfather essentially didn't meet his mom till he was 9 years old, because he went off to live with his grandparents. Even though my grandfather went through a lot, he was kind of considered by his siblings to have been the luckiest one. The kid that my great grandmother was pregnant with when all this happened, she ended up giving birth to her, and her name was Milagros, which is the name of my great grandmother. We don't know what happened to her, but the story that's kind of been passed down is there was a raid or a bombing, and so they went to the bomb shelters, and it was really crowded, and a lot of stuff was going on, and this girl who was maybe 2, maybe 3 at the time got lost in the crowd, and they never found her, and none of us know what happened to her.
Your great grandmother?
Yes.
That was her kid?
Yes.
And so she basically she lost all her kids, lost contact with them for a while?
Yeah, so she ended up at one point she came and when my mom was growing up in Colombia, she came and lived with my mom and their family, but they didn't apparently she and my grandfather never got along, because he really resented her for I think he took it as kind of an abandonment, but also she didn't really have a choice. So I almost said she wouldn't talk about it, but she would like cry a lot, like they'd get into like a lot of arguments. I guess like the way I look at like family and like generations and stuff is like you're always like trying to do better for your kids than your parents could do for you.
My family story starts in Korea. So my mom immigrated here when she was 9, but the reason she immigrated was because my grandfather had an affair with another woman. Because in Korea at the time, if parents got divorced, the kids would automatically go with their father just by law. And she was like, we're either going to get divorced and you're going to be stuck with these 5 kids, or you're going to go to America, make some money there, and then we're all going to join you later. So he chose the second option, and he left first, so my grandmother was stuck with 5 kids for, I think, 3 years, raising them on her own. And then they moved here when my mom was 9. They were one of the only Asian families in the area, so when my mom went to school, she got bullied a lot. They called her all kinds of derogatory names and slurs. They made fun of her for not knowing English, so she took that as, oh, I'm gonna learn English really, really well, and then nobody can make fun of me because I'll have better English than all of them. And she did. It took her about 1.5 years, but she learned English. She could speak it really well. She still had an accent for a while, but it was like nobody could really make fun of her because she knew English. And then anybody who did make fun of her, she just beat them up. She was the only one of her siblings to go to college and graduate in 4 years or less. So she worked really, really hard. Like she's like my role model in a lot of ways. For me, hearing my mom's story and her family's story, it always makes me feel like no matter what comes my way, like no matter what the universe decides I'm gonna go through, I can make it through it because they made it through a lot.
Do you think that like being a woman in that time like affected like how resilient she had to be to like get through those things?
Mm-hmm. But even now it makes a big difference, right? The way that superiors see you as, either being bossy or self-righteous or a smart aleck, or, when you're just trying to do your job and do it the best that you can, is something you gotta work through. So I definitely think that that's something that's an extra layer that you gotta push through, right?